Hello, today in this video we are going to see how we can create an application that will be useful for performing text to speech conversions. For this we are going to make use of Spring AI, which will interact with the ElevenLabs APIs. Now when it comes to ElevenLabs, it is one of the leading software company that specialize in advanced generative audio technologies like text to speech, speech to text, voice cloning and so on. So before we jump into the coding part, let's understand how our overall flow will look like. So for this, we have created one simple diagram. So here you will see as an input, we will receive the text content from the user for which they want to generate the audio file. Along with the text content, we will receive certain additional parameters which will ultimately impact the audio file that is going to be generated. So once we have received the text content and voice parameters, we will create the text to speech prompt. Then we will pass this information to the Spring AI 11 Labs text to speech model. Spring AI will ultimately forward this info to the 11 Labs API, which will process this input. And finally, we will receive the output from the 11 Labs, which we can use directly. Now coming to the project structure, the name of our application is going to be Spring AI text to speech 11 Labs. Inside this, we have one controller containing one endpoint which will be useful for performing text to speech conversions. Then we have created one additional controller which contains some supporting endpoints which we will go through shortly. Then we have the DTO for accepting the request from the user. Then we have Spring Boot main class. Along with this, we have the application.yml containing the text to speech specific configuration. Then we have the pom.xml containing the required dependencies and project configuration. And also we have created one simple UI to test our text to speech endpoint. This is optional, but we have just created it for the demo purpose. Now coming to the IntelliJ. So here you will see the overall project looks exactly same that we have discussed just now. Let's start with the pom.xml. So at the very top, you will notice we are making use of Java version 21. Then we are making use of Spring AI version 1.1.0 hyphen snapshot. So this is the snapshot version. So when it comes to the 11 Labs support, currently it is available within the snapshot version. So by the time you are watching this tutorial, if the stable version is available, please use the stable version. Then we have added few dependencies like Spring Boot Starter Web, which will be useful for creating the REST APIs. Then we have added the dependency for 11 labs, which is Spring AI starter model 11 labs. Then we have added the logbook dependency, which will be useful for logging the calls that we are making to the 11 labs. Then we have added the Spring AI bomb, which will be useful for managing the Spring AI related dependencies. Now this is important since we are making use of the Spring AI snapshot version, we have to add the repositories section. So the snapshot versions are not available within the Maven Central, due to which we are adding the Spring snapshot repositories here. So here you will see we have added the URLs of Spring snapshot and Central portal snapshots. Now coming to the application YML. So at the very top we have defined our application name. Then we have defined the configuration related to 11 labs and text to speech. So starting with the API key, we are passing the API key via environment variables. So you can create your free account on 11 Labs portal and create the API key. So when it comes to 11 Labs API support, 11 Labs provide 10,000 free credits every month, which you can use for uh, POC purposes. Then we have defined the text to speech options like we want to enable logging, also the default model that we want to use and the output format. So when it comes to model ID, we are making use of multilingual V2 model which supports various languages, and the output format we have kept it as MP3. Now in order to enable the logging of 11 Labs API calls, we are setting the logging level to trace for logbook. Coming to the main class, so here we have created one additional bean for the REST client customizer. Here you will see we are adding one interceptor which is related to logbook client HTTP request interceptor. So whenever we will make a call to the 11 Labs API, it will log request as well as the response. Now coming to the controller, here the name of the controller is text to speech controller. The base path is /API/TTS, which stands for text to speech. At the very top, we have defined the 11 Labs text to speech model, and with the help of constructor injection, we are initializing it. Now coming to our main endpoint, which is speak endpoint. So the path suffix is /speak. It is a post type of endpoint. So we will receive the request from the user and we will simply return the audio back to the user in the form of byte array. So in order to receive the request, we have created one Java record with name text to speech request. We will cover the parameters of this class shortly. Once we have received the request, we will use that data in order to create the voice settings and options as well as the prompt. Then with the help of text to speech model, we will call the 11 labs, and once we have received the response, we will simply extract the main content and return it back to the user. Now let's understand each and everything in very detail. So let's start with the request. Here you will see we have created one Java record named as text to speech request. If we go inside this, at the very top we have one field named as text, within which user can provide the text that they want to convert to audio. Then we have the voice ID, which belongs to various voice profiles that are available on the 11 Labs platform. Then we have certain fields of type double whose value can range from 0.0 to 1.0. So coming to the first field, which is stability. So here it is like how stable you want your generated audio to be. So if you set some lower values close to 0, then randomness will be included with each generation. If you want your generation to be stable, then you can set some higher values like 0.8, 0.9 and so on. Then we have two parameters related to similarity. First one is similarity boost and second one is use speaker boost. So this is like how similar or close you want your generated voice to the target voice. So based on this we can set some values. Next we have the style parameter. This is like if you want your generated voice to be more emphatic or more expressive, then you can set the values accordingly. Then at the very end we have the speed parameter. So the default value is 1.0, but we can change the speed of generated audio ranging from 0.7 to 1.2. Now coming back to the controller, once we have received the request, we will use this parameter and create the voice settings. For this we have the 11 Labs API speech request.voice settings, within which here you will see we are setting the parameters that we have received inside our input request. Once we have the voice settings, now we will create the text to speech options, for which we will make use of the builder 11 Labs text to speech options builder, and we will set the model, in this case V2 multilingual model. We will set the voice ID from the input request. We will set the voice settings that we have just created here. Then we are setting the output format. In our case it is MP3, but we have various output format which we can see it here, like ranging from MP3 to PCM, Opus and so on. Then we are simply calling the build method, which will give us the text to speech options. Once we have text to speech options, now we need to create the text to speech prompt, which we can pass it to the 11 Labs model. For this, here we are making use of text to speech prompt by using the text which was provided by the user and using the options that we have created here. Once we have text to speech prompt, we will pass this to the text to speech model. So here you will see we have text to speech model. We are passing the text to speech prompt, and in order to call the 11 Labs API, we have the call method. So once we have called the call method and received the response, it will be stored here, and once we have received the response, we will simply extract the audio content out of it. So here you will see text to speech response dot get result dot get output, which will give us the byte array. Now we need to send this byte array back to the user. Before that we are setting some headers like content type to audio/mpeg. We are also setting the length of the content, and we are simply returning back to the user. Now let's test this API. So here we are starting our application. So first we will call our endpoint, which is API slash text to speech slash speak, which is a post type of endpoint. We need to pass the content that we want to convert it to the audio. We need to provide the voice ID. We will come to this part shortly, how we can get the voice ID. Then we are setting the different voice parameters. For simplicity, I have just kept some default values. Now when we will call our endpoint, it will be forwarded to the ElevenLabs API and we will receive the response. So this was regarding the text to speech endpoint. Now we have one more controller inside our application. So here you will see we have created the voice controller. It contains the some supporting endpoints. So let's understand each and every endpoint. So the base path for this controller is slash API slash voices. And here we are making use of ElevenLabs voice API, which will be useful for getting some useful information from the ElevenLabs. So here you will see we are initializing it with the help of builder by passing the API key, and we are reading the API key from our application properties Spring AI 11 labs hyphen API 11 labs API key. Now once the 11 labs voice API is initialized, we will make a call to the 11 labs platform and get the different settings or parameters related to various voice profiles. So let's understand the first endpoint, which is get all voices. For this, we are making use of voice API dot get voices, which will give us the response. So when we call this endpoint, so here you will see we are making a call to API slash voices endpoint. We will get this particular response within which you will see the different voice profiles that are available within the 11 labs. So here you can see the name of the voice is Rachel and the voice ID is this, which we can provide to our text to speech endpoint. Along with this, you will see some labels like the accent is American, the gender is female, age is young, and so on. So you can try various profiles and you can use the voice ID that is returned inside the response of this particular endpoint. Next, we have get endpoint, which is related to the default settings. It is also similar to the first endpoint, but now it will only return the default settings. So if we call this endpoint, which is API slash voices slash settings slash default, we will get the voice parameters, or we can say default settings. Now, if you want to know more about a particular voice ID, for this we have the third endpoint, which is get voice details, wherein we need to provide the voice ID. So if we send a request to this particular endpoint by passing the voice ID, we will get the required info from ElevenLabs. Now coming to the last endpoint, which is if we want to see the settings related to a specific voice ID, for this we have this endpoint wherein we need to provide the voice ID. Then we will make a call to the settings, which will give us the voice settings for a particular voice ID. So here you will see we are passing the voice ID and we are calling the settings endpoint, which will give us the settings for this particular voice ID. So these were the four supporting endpoints that we have created. Now coming to the testing part. So we have seen one way of testing our endpoint using Postman, but we have also created one simple index.html using which we can call a text to speech endpoint. So all we need to do is we need to go to localhost 8080, which will call this particular index.html. So here you will see we can provide the input, we can provide the various parameters, voice settings that we were providing inside the Postman, and we will simply click on generate speech. And as soon as we will receive the response from ElevenLabs, the audio will start playing. Yeah, so if you want to go through the code of this HTML, it is available on GitHub. Now coming to the last part, which is related to the logbook dependency that we have added. So here you will see inside the form.xml we have added one dependency for logging the AI calls. Now let's see this in action. So I'll clear the logs and we will simply make a call to our text to speech endpoint. So here you will see when we are calling our endpoint, behind the scenes Spring AI is interacting with the ElevenLabs API. So at the very top you will see the request that our application has received. Then Spring AI is making a call to the ElevenLabs API by passing all the settings or voice options we can see along with the text that the user has provided. And here you will see what response we have received from the ElevenLabs. So here you will see the response is in the form of binary and also the other parameters that we have received. So yeah, this was all regarding text to speech. For this, we have also created the detailed article which you can go through. And the example that we discuss in this tutorial is also uploaded on GitHub. You can simply check out, add your ElevenLabs API key and try the same. And if you want to understand more about the voice settings or different parameters that we have seen while making a call to our application, this is the two guides that I found useful. One from the ElevenLabs official docs, which is here you will see product guide slash playground slash text to speech, within which we can go to the voice settings and understand how each parameter will impact the generated audio. They have provided the explanation for each and every parameter. Another guide which I found it useful is related to ElevenLabs only, but the website is voices.directory slash pages slash ElevenLabs basics, wherein you can find the description along with the use case for different parameters that we have like stability, similarity, and so on. Yeah, so that's all from my end. I hope you found it useful. Thank you.